Falcons, and that is our first quarterback in this mock draft from Ryan Wilson. It is Malik Willis to the Atlanta Falcons. Ryan, that's pretty high for a running back. Wink,
yeah,
wink.
According to Pete Prisco, I can't believe he said that. Wink, wink. Yeah. So what's the thinking here? Matt Corral, since the fall, has been my quarterback one. I think it'll be a long shot for him to go into round one. I think Malik Willis, we probably can all agree, has the most upside. He has some crazy tape at times. Like there's a lot of good, but there's some head scratchers. But that's part of the evolution of growing into this role as quarterback. So if you're Arthur Blank, the owner, and you just sent the longtime face of the franchise, Matt Ryan, to the Colts, and you have Marcus Mariota, you're probably going to be looking for a backup plan sooner than later. He's a Roswell, Georgia kid, Malik Willis is, so he'd be coming home. Arthur Smith, the second-year head coach, has a track record of developing young quarterbacks. He did a lot for Ryan Tannehill's career. And I think if you're playing in that offense that's going to be led by Marcus Mariota, Malik Willis feels like a natural succession, whether it's this year at some point or in a year or two from now. But they have to get better offensively. I mean, they could draft anyone on either side of the ball and get better, including Matt Rice, the punter out of San Diego State. But I think if you're legitimately trying to get better at the quarterback position, Malik Willis gives you the most upside. And he may not be there if you try to trade back into the first round in the mid to late part of the round one.
I think as far as this selection and its tools and really what the Atlanta Falcons need, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, they need someone who can create with his legs, potentially play a factor in the run game, and has that big arm. That's all of what Malik Willis has. The concern here, though, is just how bad that offense has been, at least in regards to the offensive line and really providing much more help. Yeah, he's got Kyle Pitts, but what is the rest going to look like, at least for this upcoming season? And if he's drafted in this spot, he will be expected to play early and often. I think it's going to be hard for Marcus Mariota to be able to hold down that starting quarterback spot, considering they're not the top of the division with that roster. And there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to play extremely well to put this team on his back and get wins. Once that goes out the window, it's time for Malik to come in. And I do think he still needs a good amount of development still, honing in on some of his footwork, honing in on some of the accuracy or inaccuracies that you saw from time to time on film. And really the last thing is just learning the game. It's a different game once you get to the NFL level. They ran somewhat of an elementary style offense, a lot of RPO heavy. When you look at Liberty's offense this past year, there's going to be a lot of differences that he sees as he comes to the NFL, and that's going to be something to keep an eye on overall, is his development and his transition.
First quarterback off the board at number 8 to the Falcons. Ryan, this is where you go quarterback. Kenny Pickett is the choice, Brady. What do you think of that?
We just talked about the reasons of what the thought was trading up. I mean, maybe this is the thought behind it. It's an odd scenario, right? I mean, you've got Jameis Winston there as it currently stands. You got Taysom Hill on the roster, and at least if you ask Drew Brees, he thinks he should be able to play 10 to 15 snaps a game as their quarterback. Pete Prisco would argue the opposite of that.
Gimmick, Brady!
But Kenny Pickett had the best film of anyone this year as far as this quarterback draft class. It really comes down to what people feel like his ceiling is. Do they feel like they're getting a better prospect than what they already have in a quarterback at Jameis Winston based on the small sample size of what he did last year? So would be an interesting move. You go with a tackle first, then you go with a quarterback afterwards with those 2 first-round picks. But I could see it paying off for Dennis Allen, the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, the question I keep coming back to, and it feels like the Saints want to get an offensive tackle and a quarterback with these 2 picks. That seems reasonable. But is Kenny Pickett better than Jameis Winston now? I don't know that he is. Maybe he will be in a year or two. So I get it. You have a quarterback in waiting, Jameis. By the way, Jameis is only 3.5 years older than Kenny Pickett, and Jameis Winston was the first overall pick in 2015. So age not necessarily a concern for the quarterbacks, but I have him going here to fill that need. And Hassel, I'll be honest, I got stuck between niche and niche. And I came out I just made up a word there.
Niche, niche. He's the one with the small hands, right, Pickett?
Right. Well, they're expanding as we speak.
Yeah, Jameis is the one who eats the W, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the problem. Is Kenny's got to be careful with those fingers.
He might choke on his hand. They're so small.
Well, if you leave him out there, I mean, you don't want to
small
smaller.
hands and you're eating that
you
W.
Jameis to eat those hands.
Could have some issues here. Let's move offensive lineman. Let's move on to 32. Final pick of the first round. Detroit Lions. They got Aiden Hutchinson first. And Ryan has him going quarterback Sam Howell here.
I like this pick. I think Sam Howell got beat up a little bit this past season at North Carolina, and really he had to carry the team, and you saw that from time to time. Jared Goff did a good job, I think, fighting for this Detroit Lions team that's still devoid of talent out around the quarterback position. So it gives Howell some time, too, to transition into that quarterback spot and learning the game. But you see the deep ball accuracy on tape that jumps off the screen. You see the athleticism. People don't talk enough about Sam Howell's ability to run the football. At times, he was literally carrying this team rushing the football. So I love this pick. It makes sense too. Teams want to get that fifth option on a quarterback. Would make a lot of sense here.
Brady, we're mind meshing on Sam Howell.
Oh,
Like, Sam Howell's my number 2 quarterback, and he has been for a while. Absolutely, I love the mind mesh. After the combine, I went back and watched 3 or 4 of his games and came around on him for the reasons you're laying out. He was asked to do a lot with very little. They run that simplified offense. It's sort of hard to get an idea of what he can actually do consistently when you're asking him to run an NFL offense. And I think those things are intriguing when you see the tools that he has, and especially if you go back the last 2 years and watch the way he played. There are a lot of bright spots. So you could argue, well, yeah, he lost 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs. He couldn't carry the team. Yeah, that's called the New York Jets. Put him on a good team, and he'll be playing like he did 2 years ago. So I think that's what you think about, especially if you're your team at 32, whether you're the Lions or some team that trades up, to get a quarterback and you have some infrastructure in place to help those quarterbacks grow into that role.
32nd and final pick of the final mock draft from Ryan Wilson, just 1 round deep. 35 mock drafts in all from Ryan. What were your takeaways from this last one, Brady?
Probably the quarterbacks and kind of where they ended up going. Interesting fits there. Outside of that, the cornerbacks, the other position that really went early and often, right? You had Stingley at 3, Ahmad Gardner at 5. I haven't seen anyone with that, and that would be the highest we've seen a cornerback taken in the draft. So some unique picks for Ryan Wilson. And as much as we want to say this is his last one, the reality is this. He'll have a mock draft next week, I believe on Monday for 2023. Is that true, a first-round mock draft?
It's coming.
Yeah, it's already here.
Yeah, no, that's true. Thank you for bringing that up.
It'll be a full 7-rounder, too. By the way, the quarterbacks that you mentioned, Malik Willis, number 8 to the Falcons, Kenny Pickett, number 19 to the Saints, Sam Howell, number 32 to the Detroit Lions. Do
you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.